Talk to me. Hi. Hello. Yeah, there wasn't enough time for the Cue at Greg song. I'm sorry. I'm just feeling so enthusiastic today. And by that I mean I realized I'm horribly behind schedule. You can't say that you weren't warned. Hi, hello, how are you doing? Hello, welcome in everybody. Please do the lab safety register check-in if you haven't already, so that I know that you are here, and also so that OSHA doesn't close down the lab, because that would not be ideal. They don't even have jurisdiction here, but they're still coming after my lab, and I don't appreciate it. Actually, I keep getting written warnings from them, and it's because of the 2 people that are not doing the lab safety register check-in. I don't appreciate this. Oh dear. Hello Alpha Hexagon, hello Dendro Maximus, hello Cogs, right? Hi Yoavco, hi Orishiro, hi Arknavist, hi Breaker Wolf, hi Bobo, hello, hi that Red Panda, hello Aleph hello Comey Belladonna. Why did I struggle with your name today? What's going on? Hello Comey Belladonna, hi Potter, hello. Thank you for the street. I need more sausage rolls, clearly. I have spent too much time in the queue at Greg's, clearly. Thank you for the 3 stream streak, Orishiro. Hello, Lost Raven Knight. Hello, I'm Dragon. Hello. Hi, Techno Penguin. Hi, Sabaz. Hi, K Maggie. Hello, welcome in. Hi, Hunter. Hi. Hello, Gora Inge. Hi, Zerkia. Hi. Hello. Yoavco, thank you so much for the 5 stream streak. Thank you so much. Thank you. And that Red Panda, thank you for the 25 stream streak. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello, Tyranno Shark. Hi, Mirrodin Will. Hello, Ghost Hardware. Hi, Retty. Hi, J5. Hello. Hi, Ice Cream. Hi. OSHA closed it down years ago for the HCl incident. We don't talk about the hydrochloric acid incident. We don't talk about this. How many times? Don't let them know. If we tell them about the hydrochloric acid incident, then they will actually shut down the lab because they will no longer trust me as a principal investigator. And this is not good. We don't want it to be shut down, right? Right? Stop trying to get my lab shut down. Oh dear. But yes, hello everybody. How are we all doing today? How is everybody? I'm doing okay. My throat kind of hurts, so that's not ideal, and I apologize for being so horrendously late. I was watching Z, and I was watching the what do you call it, the drawing thing for a while. That's part of the reason. The other part of the reason was definitely not that I was like, what am I doing on stream today? And then I was like, oh, book report. And then I would never make all of the slides for this 15 minutes before the stream is meant to start, and then realize I need significantly more time than that to make the slides, and then end up having been late, not because I was watching Z play Gartic Phone, but actually because I was making slides. I would never do such a thing. Hi Eric, hello, welcome in. How are you doing? I hope you're good. We should do it. It's funny. We probably will at some point. I like a bit of Gartic Phone. The thing is though, is that I'm kind of scared of doing it because there's enough people that come to the streams now that I can't trust everybody anymore. I can't trust everybody. Like, I trust all of you regular people that keep turning up, and I know that you're here and I know who you are. I at least have a vague semblance of like who you are and how you live, especially those of you who submitted your rooms for room review. I know especially how you live. But like, if I have like at least a vague understanding of who you are, then I'm like, okay, I can trust you a bit, we can play Gartic Phone, this would be fine. But opening it up to the whole community, that's kind of scary. Oh, I'm living in fear of the concept of it. Oh dear. Professional procrastinator. Honestly, that was me today. That really was me. Hi, the little angry Korean woman. Hello. Welcome in. I hope you're good. And hello, Master Yoba. Hello. How are you doing? I'm not Psydere. It's not pronounced like that. It is pronounced Psydere, like tsundere or dere or yandere, whatever is your preferred personality type. It's not deer. I'm not a deer. Oh dear. You need to filter us through an application process? Maybe I will actually. Maybe I will filter you through an application process. Too many people in chat. Sorry, I guess I'll make room then. No, don't go. Don't know. No. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. It's just that I don't know some of you very well yet, you know? I think I know most of you. But, you know, sometimes somebody turns up and they're like first time chat and it turns out they've actually been here for like, you know, like 6 months. They've been at every stream and then I'm like, sweats nervously. Who are you? I'm scared. I know that there's some people that lurk in my streams. I see them. I see them in the list. I perceive them and they scare me. They scare me. Oh dear. Hi, Mavis Toafsy. Hi, how are you doing? I hope you're good. I hope you're good. And hi, Fiona Pre-Roll. Hello. Welcome in. I hope you're good. Derek. My name is not Derek. I refuse. Psydere, the Pokemon with psychic powers in its antlers? Perhaps. This would probably be me if I was a Pokemon, let's be honest. I feel like that's already one. Psyduck with antlers. There was a period of time where everyone was insisting that like the chat name would be the Psyduckies. And I was like, it's cute, but I do fear that that is a lawsuit waiting to happen. And then we never actually came up with a name. So if anybody wants to come up with a name, you're welcome to. It can't be Psyduckies. Nintendo is famously litigious, you know? Hi, Exit. Hello. You have indeed been perceived. I know you're there. I like doing that. I have several other streamers that I do that to. I try to talk a bit more in here. Yay! I get special treatment. We get special treatment. Yippee! I'm also a lurker, so I can't judge. Like, I don't think some of my friends, I don't think they realize that I'm actually at like all of their streams. I just like don't say anything in chat because I'm normally doing something else. Like, for example, here is a good example. Oriana Aura. I'm like at most of her streams, at least for the first hour, sometimes a bit more than that. I don't think she realizes. Which is very funny to me. This is very funny to me. I see I joined just in time for the lawsuit arc. You did indeed. Hello, my Nazwa. Hello. Welcome in. Are we not the Dairy Girls and boys? Wait, that's actually so good. That's actually so good. I like this. I feel like I would be... Wait, what channel was Dairy Girls on? I forget what channel that was on. Was it channel 4? Question mark? I don't even know, but I feel like they'd be significantly less litigious. Maybe they would give me the pass because, you know, I live here and stuff. Who knows? Who knows? The fact that I live in Northern Ireland might indeed allow me to use that word for my chat. It's hard to tell who's lurking in your stream in general. This is very true. She definitely doesn't realize. That's so funny. Or it gets jump scared by you so often when you actually chat and it's so funny. I like sitting there and waiting for the perfect moment to say something. Like it's always... I don't know if... Okay, I feel like probably some of you have noticed this by now, but like I will often come into Ori's chat specifically when she's doing something really unhinged or saying something really unhinged. And she's like, I hope my friends don't see this. Because I feel like it's just, you know, it's just peak content to do that. I didn't know it was intentional. Of course it's intentional. I'm a little gremlin. It's always been intentional. I am just a terrible person, actually. Oh dear. It's a skill to stalk your friends and scare them at the right moment. Right? I'm always here. I'm always lurking. I'm always lurking. But then it's kind of sad because often because I'm doing stuff at the same time, I often actually miss like moments which are quite funny, and then people reference them and I'm like, I don't actually know what you're referring to because my attention is split between, for example, your stream and doing a budget sheet for a grant that I'm administrating. So yeah, that's a thing. Anyway, so I said that today I was going to be doing a presentation, did I not? And I am indeed doing a presentation. And that's the thing that we're doing. I read a book, and I wish for everybody to be aware of the fact that I have read a book. So I am going to share my thoughts and opinions on the book. Yes. I realized also that, like, I don't want to do that thing where it's like talking about it in a way that assumes that everybody knows it. And because it's a non-fiction book, you can't really spoil a non-fiction book, I think, unless it's like a true crime type of thing. Like that could be spoiled, I guess. But like, you know, non-fiction in general, I think it's okay to like to share, like to summarize what happens in the book or what is described in the book. Because it's information and this is educational, and therefore I must do a disclaimer, which is that anything that I'm talking about in this stream is being shared for educational purposes. It is being used under free use. I'm not sharing any direct content from the book itself, aside from a low resolution scan of the front cover. Everything that is in the book is a summary in my own words of my understanding of the content of the book. Some things I've left out because we'll get to that in a minute. Definitely not linked to not having enough time to put together the presentation. But I think like the summary part of it is the least interesting part, really. I think I want to talk about my opinions on it more than anything else. My assessment of it. Is it smart? No. Is it the book Green Eggs and Ham from Dr. Seuss? No. Tristira, thank you for the 65 stream streak. Thank you. I hope we have a hype train today. I'm holding on to my Prime sub. I have muted alerts, so they'll still come up as a little like ringy bell thingy. No, wait. The animation will come up, but the sound won't, because I thought if I am like yapping about the book, it would make me lose my train of thought, which is probably funny for some streams, but I think this is not the stream where it's useful, if that makes sense. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how things work. I don't know how they decide things. I don't know anything. I'm just a silly little guy, man. Is it Harry Potter? No. Is it Call of Cthulhu? No, it is not. Did the book have pictures? Do you know, it didn't have pictures, but it did have graphs. Also, can I just say, every time that I think of the word graph or hear the word graph or read the word graph, which is a lot in my job, I think of that one meme where it's like Chad, is that his name? Chad from Nickelback in the yeah, look at this graph. I'm glad it's not just me. I think of that literally every time. Like, I'm not even joking. And I honestly, it's like multiple times a day. I have a problem that my brain will just read the word graph and it will go, look at this graph. That's the one, Chad Kroger. That's the one. Thank you. I knew his name was Chad something. I don't know much about Nickelback apart from look at this graph. Oh dear. I'm literally marking year 5 grade 11 maths graphs right now. Let's go. Look at this graph. Maybe I should make this a sound alert. Maybe someone remind me in the Discord server to turn that into a sound alert. I'll add that onto my extensive list of tasks that I need to complete at some point. I'm sure I'll do it all in a panicked frenzy at 4 a.m. one day. Who knows? Who knows? Jade, hello, thank you for the lab safety register check-in. I hope you're good. I hope you're good. I have so many math stims that it's actually annoying to myself that I have to unlearn them. I feel that. I feel that. The graph one is definitely one of them for me. Yeah. Hi, Gideon. Hello, welcome in. How are you doing? I hope you're good. Okay, we're going to... the feminine urge to say we're going to look at this graph. No, we're not looking at any graphs, actually. I've not copied over any of the graphs out of the book because that would be copyright infringement. We are going to bring up my presentation. Let's go. Where did I put it? I've got like the vertical streaming thing now and I don't know what's happening anymore. I'm scared and confused. Let's see. Is this going to bring up the right one? We'll find out together. Actually, I don't know what I'm looking at. Actually, I'm not even... this one, there we go. Ah! Well, I can see it on one place. And I can also see it in the other place. This is good. It has worked as intended. Isn't that wonderful? Check me out. I'm so professional and highly prepared. I know what I'm doing, I swear. Vertical people, vertical stream people, I apologize profusely if the writing is too small. I did not test it beforehand. On the bright side, the image on your screen seems to look a lot less low resolution. This is the book that we're talking about, by the way. Putnam, like the Putnam exam. I don't know what the Putnam exam is. I don't know. Robert D. Putnam was is a political scientist. I'm gonna go with was because I assume I know this came out relatively when he was established, so he's probably at least retired, maybe. I don't know. Is, as far as I know. Okay. Bro's still going. That's impressive. I would have retired so long ago if I had one single best-selling book. I would be like, here is my best-selling book. Okay, and now I leave. He's alive. I wasn't implying he wasn't alive. I just wasn't sure if he was retired. I don't know, man. Like, some of us just want to retire at the age of 40, okay? It will never happen, but some of us want it. Also, hello Flatulence Incarnate and hello Nuclear Salt Water. Hello. Welcome in. Thank you for the lab safety register check-ins. Oh dear. Is retired scientist not anymore a scientist? Well, if I was retired, I would say that I was a psychologist because it's not my job anymore. Once a scientist, always a scientist, I guess. But like, if you're a taxi driver and then you retire from being a taxi driver and you never drive a taxi again, are you really still a taxi driver? Retirement equals career death? Maybe. It would be for me. He's emeritus. Okay, he is then. Thank you. That answers my question, because emeritus is like, they never give up. Like, emeritus is like they're retired in quotation marks. So that answers my question. So Robert D. Putnam is a political scientist, or well, I mean, this is kind of like halfway between political science and sociology. It's really interesting. I did enjoy reading this. This is the first thing I will say. I did enjoy reading this. Also, hi Dragonator, hello, welcome in. Who are we killing? We're not killing anyone. I'm not killing anyone. I just didn't know if he was retired. Turns out he is retired. He is retired, but you know, yeah, in an emeritus professor kind of way, which means never really retired, to be honest. Yeah. There's moderation anniversaries? Question mark. Huh? That's not meant to be making noises. Sean, what are you doing? Why are you making noises, Sean? Oh wait, did you hear the noise from Sean? Did anyone else hear Sean making noises? Did anyone else hear Sean saying Lankuri tired? Did anyone else hear that? Okay. It's because I've got it set to output here. I understand. I'm going to turn that off because that's going to distract me. Thank you so much for the 18 months, Lankuri. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And for a whole year of being a mod. Thank you. I appreciate you. I definitely have not locked you into a basement from which you cannot escape. So good of you to stay put for so long. Yeah, I didn't know the mod anniversary was a thing. We've learned something today. That's very cool. That's very cool. Thank you, Lankuri. And I assume in that basis also it's probably also Bobo and Mylin's mod anniversaries as well. So thank you, Bobo. Thank you, Mylin. Thank you all for stepping in after the Neuro Raid when I needed moderation help very urgently. I appreciate you. Wait, does that mean that it has now been a year since the Neuro Raid? I don't know. I'm going to check real quick. I'm going to check. Being a taxi driver may change your brain, so you would, in a lot of ways, always be a taxi driver. Yeah, it does something to your hippocampus, question mark? Question mark? Maybe? If I remember correctly. Let's see. When did this happen? The 8th. It has not been a year yet. Did we mod you just before that? That's interesting. I don't remember the thinking. Anyway. And thank you for the hype train coming, Belladonna. Thank you so much for the 12 months of Prime. What the heck? Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And yay, hype train. Yippee. You got your hype train. Thank you so much. But yes, I guess it's the Neuro Raiders anniversary is in 4 days. That's interesting. That's fun. That's cool. And scary that it's been a whole year. That's kind of wild. Yeah. Hippocampus, like a zoo or a sanctuary? Yes. Exactly. Also, hi, Dr. Hubs. Hello, hello. I was a big fan of this book, which is sociology. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. We're going to get to my opinions in general, which I think was broadly positive. However, I've done that academic thing where my positives points are like 3 of them, and then my negative points is like 10 million of them, because it's constructive criticism, sweaty. Look it up. Have I put my... There we go. Okay. Okay. Maybers, thank you so much for the 100 bits. What the heck? Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I can't believe it's been a whole year. That's wild. That's wild. Hippocampus. It might just be that only people with those hippocampuses could manage to be successful taxi drivers in the first place. Yeah, but I think I vaguely remember there's like a classic study, right, that looked at the hippocampi of taxi drivers in London. I remember this, and they showed something. I think if did they ever end up doing a longitudinal study? I don't remember. I feel like they should have. I feel like they should have. I also, this is like Psych 101, and I don't remember it very well. Yeah. Anyway, today we're talking about Bowling Alone, brilliant. Bowling Alone. The Collapse and Revival of American Community by Robert D. Putnam. Yes. Okay, so what is this book about? So, in short, it summarizes changes in social capital. So that is, social capital is basically whether we have connections and networks and relationships and groups of people which can all support us to achieve our goals. The goals can either be like individual or they can be collective goals, because normally collective goals can also be tied to the individual. Isn't that shocking? Individuals are in fact part of a collective. And the book is very, very US focused. I mean, it says it in the subtitle. It's literally focused on America. So I think that is useful in terms of defining scope, which is very important in academic work. I do think it ends up causing a slight issue, though. I think also I need to be upfront in that I'm not American, obviously, so I don't understand the cultural context in which this is written and set and which the data is being collected. So there might be stuff that I have kind of overlooked because there may be an assumption that's embedded into American culture that everybody seems to know and I just don't. So fully aware that that may have been a thing. Yes, I own up to that in advance. If you think that I'm missing something important, please just tell me. But yeah, So the book is split into 4 sections. The first is describing what's happening in terms of social capital, so various range of changes that are happening in different domains. The second section is why it might be happening. So there's kind of 4 main hypotheses that are investigated. Number 3 is why it matters. So why should we care about the fact that this is changing? And number 4 was what should we do in the future about it? Yeah. Hi, hello, hi Cleepa, welcome in, and hello Z, what the heck? What the heck? Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in. Hi, Raiders. Hello. Hi, Astral. Hi, Ilgaz. Hello, welcome in. Hi, Aggie. Hi, Warpy. And hello, Z, of course. Hi. How are you? How was your Gartic phone? I hope you had a lot of fun. Hi. And hello, Interstellar Alien. Welcome in. Welcome. Yeah. Happy 2nd anniversary. Let's go. Let's go. How are you doing? I hope you had a good stream. And hello, for anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Psydere. I'm a research psychologist. I have a PhD in psychology. And today we're talking about a classic social science book, Bowling Alone by Robert D. Putnam. And this is the stream in which I will summarize it, and then I will say the things that I like about it, and then I will critically rip it apart, as any good academic should. Oh dear. We're chatting about how we met IRL. Yeah! Everybody, me and Z met IRL. It was so fun. We had so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I don't know what you've said about it, and I don't want to say stuff that you haven't said, and I'm also bad at judging what I can and can't say. But it was a lot of fun. I shared the art that Mylon made of us. The art is so cute. Someone please remind me to share that actually at the end of the stream too. Please someone remind me, because otherwise I'll forget. I just said we got our books to read. Yeah, okay, so I'm so hyped. I got this book called Catabasis. It was recommended to me by a friend. It's a fiction book, but it's basically about how academia sucks. So I'm very excited to read it. You're halfway through East of Eden already. Your reading speed is incredible. You're too powerful. I've just finished, I can't remember if I told you, I think I told you that I was reading The Last Wish, which was the book that The Witcher was based on. I just finished that, like a week ago, and I haven't read anything since because I am lazy. And also low-key working quite hard at the minute. Yeah. Doc Rex, thank you so much for the 13 months. What the heck? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And hello, Imogen and Professor Dutchy. Hi, welcome in. I hope you're both good. Hello. I just read all the time. On the bus, train, walking. That's too powerful. Oh, Flatchins Incarnate, thank you for the gifted sub to Robert Putnam. Is that the Robert Putnam? My Oshi? My Bowling Alone Oshi? Incredible. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Oh dear. Tired from locking in from the Gartic stream, so I have some head pats and my best wishes for the book review. Thank you. I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. Read a book? Man, I wish I have to write my book. I also have plans to write something. Long-term viewers know what it is. Specifically, Orishiro knows what it is. I wonder if Orishiro, if you're still here, I wonder if you remember. This idea that you gave me, not you gave me, but you know, we talked about it originally in this stream like 2 years ago. And I've been playing over the idea and building on it for literally the whole time ever since. I have so many ideas. Got to set up the vtuber bowling club. I think this is the answer. This is single-handedly the answer to solving the social capital crisis, is to set up a vtuber bowling club. You've heard of a Minecraft VTuber server. Now it's time for the bowling VTuber server. Oh dear. Hi Anna, hello. Welcome in. Thank you for the lab safety register check-in. Had some incredible art on the Gartic phone stream. That is wild. I'm so excited to go back and see it. I was meant to watch it. I literally told everybody my stream might be delayed because I'm going to be joining Gartic phone. And then I realized I had to make the presentation for my stream 15 minutes before stream. So Yeah. My bad. Oh dear. The solution is to everything being setting up a bowling club is quite a sentence to join in on. I mean, it's true though. It's true. Look, if internet's universal Oshi, Moist Critical, can take up bowling, then I think that there's something behind the hypothesis, you know? Just saying. Just saying. You're not paying Titan enough? Whatever you are paying him? Maybe. Maybe. I've already read 65 books this year. That's wild. That's too powerful. I would forget all of them. I've got 4 books on the go at the minute, admittedly, which isn't ideal, but you know, it's happening. Ludwig sets up the streamer bowling tournament. Is that a real thing? Is that a real thing? Maybe we should just get a bunch of VTubers to do Wii Sport bowling. Maybe this is the answer. I need to yap about them to not forget them. Well, you're always welcome to yap to me. I'm always open to hearing about book yapping, because then maybe I'll actually read it too. Basically, the way that this works for me is that I will almost certainly end up reading a book if someone recommends me it, because I like talking to other people about it. However, if it's just like I should read this book, I will never read it. Yeah, VTuber tournament arc, clearly. Clearly. Oh dear. Okay, I'm going to drink some tea and then we continue talking about the book. Okay. Don't worry, it's decaf. Okay. So yes, these are the sections of the book. I'm going to now summarize the sections of the book. This is the part that may be boring. I apologize. So the first section was talking about what is happening in terms of social capital. In short, this was a large number of chapters which had a large amount of converging evidence for reducing engagement with relationships, groups, and civic life across multiple domains. Now, what does that mean? It means that basically people were less likely to meet up with their friends. They were less likely to go and join a club. They were less likely to vote. They were less likely to do non-voting political and civic behaviors like joining a local committee. They found this between 1940 through to 1990. So basically it was high in 1940 and then it decreased all the way down to 1990. Obviously it stops at 1990. Not super helpful for us, given that was like 30 years ago. Wait, maths, 35? 30, it was a while ago now. It was a stark reminder of how old millennials are, frankly. But yeah, that was the trend. It was fairly consistently downwards overall. There were basically, it like peaked in the 40s and then it was down mostly from there. The domains that they were looking at were like politics, religion, workplace, just like casual day-to-day friendships, membership of like societies, so like professional societies went up slightly, but then it started going down again. But also, you know, like civic societies like the Rotary Club and stuff like that, that's been going down. And it was also quite interesting because it was using multiple methodologies. So for example, there was a whole bunch of large survey data. There was a whole bunch of like observational data, for example, like voter rates. And it kind of like converged all of these multiple strands of evidence into one observation, which is that overall engagement with any kind of civic life broadly is on the decline, or it was on the decline between 1940 and 1990. I really, really enjoyed this part of the book. It was very repetitive though, but it was so thorough. And like very rarely do I, as a psychologist, do I see descriptive research that is so meticulously done and thinks about so many possible angles. So I really enjoyed that part of it. I thought this was like a really, really good section. But yeah, it was a bit dense. There was a lot of chapters. The chapters were quite long. I did, like, this was the part of the book where I wasn't reading as fast because I kept kind of like getting through one chapter and being like, oh my God, I need a break now. Like, it was very, very intense. It was intense. Yeah. Yeah. Was decrease consistent between antisocial political activity and regular one? Well, this is the interesting thing, is that I didn't actually notice that much talk about antisocial political activity. So when you say antisocial political activity, I think what we'd phrase it as in psychology would be like non-normative political engagement. So normative political behaviors would be like voting, doing like signing a petition, writing to your local representative, stuff like that. Non-normative political behavior would be like protesting, for example, taking part in a like a demonstration where everybody's just kind of standing there and it's like a rally. That would be considered normative. Non-normative would be like the types of things that Extinction Rebellion do, for example, you know, the kind of like direct action type of stuff. Be it non-violent, like what they do, where they like super glue themselves to the highway or whatever, or it can be violent protests as well. So for example, when people, you know, riot, they're all considered non-normative. And non-normative just means like it's not the standard thing that you would expect someone to do, basically. Hi Firezone, hello, welcome in, and Kami as well, hello, welcome in. I hope you're good. I wonder what happened in the 40s to do that. We'll get to that. This was pre-internet, meaning that the internet is not at fault this time. Yes. There was a brief mention of the internet. Actually in this section too, because he said that the internet might be one of the rare things that is actually an exception to the rule, because at that point, like in the 90s when this came out, well, I think the book actually came out in like 2001, but like when he was writing it in the 90s, the internet was like slowly starting to be adopted, but it wasn't super widespread yet, right? So I think I want to say that my family probably got an internet connection pretty early because my one of my relatives needed it for work. But I think we probably got it in like 2003 or 2004. So yeah, this was like before having internet access was super widespread, but I think it was around the time where you could, for example, go into a library and access the internet that way. Yes. But yeah, because of that, it was kind of more speculation about the internet than anything else. It was quite interesting, though. It was quite interesting. I got AOL in 1997. 97 for me, I think. Okay, that's interesting. My parents met online in like 95. That's wild. Maybe my family was just not an early adopter, or maybe it was just a bit later in the UK. Either way. Also, before the social network was invented, yes. Back in the day when it was just email lists and bulletin board forums. Yeah. Maybe the occasional IRC if you were lucky. Yeah. Also, hi Starlin, hello. Does that mean writing after a football game is considered normative? No, that would be considered non-normative behavior also. Writing in general would be considered non-normative. In the 90s, the internet was as new as AI is now. All overgrown, won't become as big anyway. Yeah. Hee. The wild times where many a person was slapped with a large trout. I have so many questions. I feel like that's a reference to something and I don't know what it is. Good old dial-up. Oh, I remember. I actually like dial-up noises. I like dial-up noises. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. This was like very, very good. Very, very thorough from an academic perspective. From a reading perspective, I enjoyed reading it. I like one of my big positives of the book was overall I think it was just an easy book to read, but this section in particular was the hardest of all of them because it was quite painful at times, because it would be like, okay, here's an example. I can't remember what chapter this was in specifically, but it would be like, what if it was thing A? And then it's like, okay, here's some correlational evidence that suggests it, but what if it's not A because it's actually B? Okay, here's some correlational evidence that rules out B. But what if it's not A because it's C? Okay, here's some more correlational evidence that rules out C. And it kind of just went on and on and on like that, attacking all possible angles, which again, I really appreciated the thoroughness, but it did make it a bit difficult to read at times. But yeah, overall, I think the book was really well written. It's just when you're being this comprehensive, it's quite hard to make it fun and interesting, I think. Yeah. Anyway, next. Okay. Why might this be happening? That was the second section. There was a button in IRC that slapped people with a large trout. I do not remember this. This must have been after my time. Or before my time, actually. This must have been before my time, even. Wow. Some of that would be regional issues, so things like the troubles in Northern Ireland, civil rights movement in the US will be understandable as outliers. Yeah, I mean, this book is focused on like the US specifically, so the troubles wouldn't have had any influence on it. But yeah, it did talk about the civil rights movement, to be fair. So yes, I think this is also one of the things that we will come back to later, probably. Hi Kiori, hello, and hi Racco, hi, how are you doing? I hope you're good. And Co-Prols, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome into the research participation pool. Thank you. And hi Joe Victor, hi, hello, welcome in. The trout slapping is very old. I see. Yeah, this is probably before my time then. Okay, so the second section of the book is why might it be happening? Why might there be a general downward trend in civic engagement across various domains? I've just realized it says it investigated 3 key ideas. There is in fact 4 bullet points. I can count, I swear. The first was that we have less time and money to spend on social and community activities. The second was that we have more national and international mobility and therefore less tightly knit communities as a result. The third was that technology and mass media have made us more individualistic and we're not spending as much time on community activities as a result. And the fourth one is generational effects explain it. I think my original thinking was that I was going to weave the generational effects into the 3 other points. And then I was like, well, he doesn't do that in the book. So I added it back in as a separate point in a separate slide. And then I didn't update the header bit. So yeah, peer reviewing myself. Terrible. Were these hypotheses or conclusions? These were theories. So basically they were kind of like, could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this? Unsurprisingly, the answer to all of them is it depends. But it is also a little bit of a conclusion because not all of it, but some of it he did seem to find evidence for. Okay. Internet would be way better if you were always at risk of being slapped with a trout. Is this maybe what the moderation tool should be here, in fact? Is you don't get banned from my chat, you get trout slapped out of my chat. That sounds threatening, actually. That sounds threatening. You're a scientist, not a mathematician. Counting is hard. Exactly. Exactly. Could it be this or this or this when it's all of the above? Well, yes. Yes. I have no other way to expand on that. The answer is yes. Oh dear. That is how social science works. You're like, hey, I have a hypothesis, and then you either falsify it or you're like, great, this might explain 10% of the variance in a large model that has many, many variables in it. That seems to be how it works in general. I suffer every day as a result. Moderator badge is just a green fish. I would love that. I should do that. Okay. Right. So the first part, time and money. So many people will say, I can't do things because I don't have any time anymore. And I also don't have any money and I can't do things anymore. And boomers had it so good. And the generations before them, who I definitely remember the name of, had it so good. And these days, I, as a lowly Gen Xer / millennial, because it is 1990, do not have any time or money to be doing the things. To which the evidence says, actually, Americans in the 90s had more time for leisure than they ever had in previous generations. But they felt like they had less. So there was this really interesting divergence between what they actually had and the perception of what they had. Now, it's very important to mention and also to highlight that Putnam did also stress that like financial distress, job insecurity, and real wage stagnation were experienced, and these did seem to explain maybe like 10% of the variance. So one of the issues that has been, like in economics, one of the things that has been noticed over time is that basically wage inequality has been increasing, which means that the people who have money have more money and the people who don't have money have less money. And that's been a thing that we've been noticing since about the 70s. So that kind of inequality between the upper part and the lower part has been increasing. Which is why sometimes you might hear about like the stretched middle, is because basically people who were in the middle, kind of like neatly between those two groups that, you know, they weren't close to each other, but they were closer than they are now, that like that gap has shifted. And now people who used to be in the middle are actually closer towards the bottom. I know very little about economics, so if anyone is an economist, please feel free to fact check me. But yeah, so Putnam also stressed that this change, this sense of like, oh, we don't have any time, and we feel like we don't have any time, and we seem to possibly actually not have as much money as we used to in real terms, was not due to women's increased participation in the workforce, because the downward trend in civic engagement continued even for women who were stay-at-home mums. So, you know, there was a very, very strong decrease in the amount of time that working women were spending in civic engagement, but there was also a decrease in the amount of time that stay-at-home mums were spending in civic engagement. And like when you look back historically, the stay-at-home mums, like the women who were not part of the workforce, they were like a big chunk of the populace that were doing a lot of grassroots work in communities. They were doing a lot of the civic work. There was also this quite interesting shift where kind of informal socializing, so, you know, where people just get together, it moved from people's homes, so, you know, just like going over someone's house and having a cup of coffee or whatever, and from public spaces. I say public spaces, but it's like parks and churches and stuff like that, places where like you could gather kind of informally. And it shifted towards more commercialized spaces, so like shopping malls or like commercial cafes, stuff like that. That it was quite an interesting trend. I did feel like in general, in this chapter, I did feel like the aspect of like real terms income was not really addressed super well. Like I felt like it was a little bit of an element in the room in this chapter. I don't know. It felt like there was a lot more emphasis on kind of like, how can I put this? It felt like it was more, like there was more in this chapter especially. I think this is a kind of general trend a little bit for the book, but especially in this chapter, it felt like there was a very strong emphasis on people's individual choices, and less so on the structures and like societal level aspects and systemic aspects that lead to those choices, or like sometimes enable or even force those choices. So for example, to me, it seems really obvious that if people are having less job security, they're less likely to, for example, get promoted at work. They feel like they're less committed to the company, because this was something that was mentioned, is that like people feel less committed to their company, but that's a kind of bi-directional thing, because companies also show less loyalty to their staff. They're more likely to lay them off in America now. So if someone feels like their career is not stable, and if their real terms income is decreasing, then, or even like stagnating or decreasing, then it means that they have less money to spend on things. And on top of that, something that also wasn't really addressed was the fact that like people's working hours has increased in certain aspects of the population. So I felt like, from what I've seen anyway, the surveys that I've seen, is that the people who are working the longest hours are either office-based middle-class workers or like working class people who have to have multiple jobs, and they're doing as many hours as they can, as many shifts as they can. Those seem to be the people that are like really impacted by elements of overworking. And that wasn't really addressed. I feel like possibly that has changed though, because I'm not being funny. Like if there is real terms income stagnation or decrease, then that would probably drive people to want to work more hours to try and increase their wages. So I feel like this whole aspect was just not really elaborated on enough. Yeah. And I also feel like that would also explain a big chunk of the trend in moving socializing from public spaces and like third spaces. Thank you, Cleaver. Yeah, like third spaces into commercial spaces like shopping malls. Because basically people, if they feel tired, if they feel like they don't have the time, if they're feeling like their well-being is being affected because they don't have financial stability, which is such a core part of feeling like psychologically safe and secure, then it would make sense that they would move to those kinds of spaces, because they'd be like, well, I kind of need to like maximize my time effectively. Like I need to go and do my shopping, and I also want to see my friends, so I might as well do the two things at the same time. But I think it also probably reflects a little bit of changes in like cultural norms as well, because obviously culture has become a lot more commercialized in a lot of ways. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening to my rambling. What are your thoughts on this? I wonder if the wage gap is also a leisure time gap. Like if you're poorer, obviously you'd have less free time. Yeah, but it's also it's not just like the amount of hours you're doing. It's also like the quality of the work that you're doing. Because so many people, I mean, there's a book that I've been meaning to read forever that I have not ever got round to reading, but I really, really should, called BS Jobs. You know, this is a say-so stream. I'm not allowed to say that word. I feel like I need to read it, though, because I feel like it would probably tie in quite well, because there's a lot of people, I think, that they're like middle-class people, that they're doing a job where they just feel like it's not really contributing anything meaningful. And they're not getting any kind of loyalty back from the company either. So it's like, even if people felt like they were doing a BS job in, like, historically, you know, in like the 50s and 60s, at least they had a degree of career stability. Whereas like now you don't have either. So I would imagine possibly there might be something going on there too. I've been meaning to read that too. Yeah, I've been recommended it so many times that I keep being like, I should read that, and then I never get around to it. Yeah. Gini index would be what you're looking for. What is the Gini index? Please tell me. I don't know what this is. I've heard of it. Like, I think I'm very confident that this is one of those things that I knew at some point during my studies and have now forgotten. I work 2 jobs and still struggle. Yeah, it do be like that. It do be like that. I mean, I was doing that literally until like a year ago, and I guess from January I'm going to be doing it again, so I feel you. I feel you. On the bright side, I've found out that my salary next year is going to be low enough that I don't have to pay taxes, so that's good. Temporarily removing your labor through union action is risky when there's low job security. Exactly, yeah. I mean, this is another thing, is that like, I mean, unions were referenced in part of it. There's like a section about workplace engagement that was where it did kind of like mention unions, but I also felt like there wasn't enough talk about unions and like the systemic factors that have led to the decrease in unionization of workplaces. Because like, yeah, it's very like, that's a big part of workplace structural changes that have happened in the last 50 years, and it was just kind of glossed over. I picked my job because it has no chemicals in the air, no night shift, and minimal bureaucracy. This sounds sensible. This sounds sensible. I just work 25 hours. Taxman takes now less, and I get more time. I feel stupid because I worked for years for 40 plus hours. Yeah, I mean, I feel you. When I was doing my PhD, I was doing like 6 days a week. So, and they were like 12-hour days. It was very stupid. I shouldn't have done it. Looking back, I actually regret it. I wish that I'd stuck to 40 hours. Because at least with a PhD, I was doing something that I cared about, you know? Now, like my job that I do now, I also care about it. And I feel like my job is very meaningful. But I did, like they asked me, would you rather have like a 5 days 9 to 5 contract, or would you rather have a 4-day 9 to 5 contract? And I was like, 4 days, please, because I would actually like to have a 3-day weekend, and that is a salary that I can survive on relatively easily. Or rather it was when I was a dual income household. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm also at the point now where like I'm I'm very privileged in the sense that I'm like financially stable enough that I can not be like super, super horribly affected by the decrease in income. But I can enjoy my time a little bit as well. But you know, it's capitalism, am I right, lads? We live in a society. Hi, Isaias. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the lab safety ratio check-in. And Mobile Armor, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome into the research participation pool. Thank you. Alienation from someone's work is a prime way to suck away their satisfaction. Yeah, I think I'm very lucky because I see up front like the way that what I'm doing affects people. Like my job is like part of it is like office research administration, which sounds like I would be divorced from what I'm doing, but because I'm in such a small company, like well, I say company, it's a non-profit, like because I'm in such a small workplace, I interact with the people that I am working with, and so like I can talk to them and be like, I have paid your salary on time, and then they will be like, thank you, I can now afford to pay my rent. And I will be like, wow, that makes me feel good about my job. It's amazing how even such a simple thing like that, you know, it like makes a big difference. And then when I'm like, part of my job involves like distributing grant money effectively. And like when I manage to give something to a grantee, every now and then, not super often, but every now and then they'll come back to me and they'll say like, thank you for that. It helped me like go to this conference and I never would have been able to do it. Or it helped me get a visa that I wouldn't have been able to get. Or it meant that I could do training and now I've got a job. And like that makes me so happy. And I feel very, very lucky that I have that as part of my job. Because I know so many people who don't. Yeah. During my PhD, I saw that the people who had worked in industry and come back to do the PhD later in life had way better work-life balance than those of us who went straight into postgrad. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. The boom in the 80s and 90s was also riding the high, buying things via credit and loans. Yeah, this is very true. And then you know what? This is the other thing though, is that we are looking at this and being like, wow, people were so commercialized in the 90s. They were so consumer. And it's like, yes, they were. But also, we have the benefit of looking into the future from when this was written. And we can be like, 2008? You think it was bad in the 90s? May I introduce you to influencer culture of the 2010s and the early 2020s? Like, good lord. Oh, dear. Yeah. So hi C140, hi. Hello, hello. I hope you're good. And hi Rico, hi. How are you doing? I hope you're good. I'm very privileged and I am so low income the tax man doesn't want my money. I don't know if these two go together. They can do. They can do in certain circumstances. Being able to see the hard work you put in make a difference makes it all worth it. Exactly. Exactly. It really does. It really does. And we aren't now. We just have the junk delivered to our door. This is exactly what I meant. Yeah, this is what I meant. Oh, was there an ad break? I wasn't paying attention and apparently there's been an ad break. I see. My bad. What are you talking about? 2007 was the best year to try and buy a house. 2008 just made it hard to keep it. Yeah. Yeah. Are the circumstances financial responsibility? Maybe. Maybe it's like living within my means and stuff. Or maybe. I was going to make a really dark joke actually, and I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't make a really dark joke. We don't need that. We don't need that. I think I've traumatized many people with my dark jokes recently, and I should probably stop doing it. Anyway. Okay. Next page. I think I know the joke, you probably do. What year did they stop offering free appliances with bank loans? Y'all got free appliances? That's wild. That's wild. Okay, I'm gonna have some tea and then we're on to section 2.2. Okay. I don't know the joke. Please tell me. Okay, the joke. What if you start a Patreon and post dark jokes that you didn't make there after stream? I should start doing that on Ko-fi. That's what I should do for the Ko-fi subscribers. I do have a Ko-fi, by the way. You don't really get anything for it. I keep being like, I'm going to post monthly newsletters and then I forget to do it. I have actually written the July one. I just haven't posted it because I'm dumb. Wait, do I have a thing that links to Ko-fi? I do. Oh my god. Look at that. I have a thing that links to the Ko-fi page. Wacky. Yeah, the joke that I was going to make was along the lines of like, well, you know, I got all of that inheritance from my dead husband. Haha. That was the joke I was going to make. Yeah, it wasn't funny. That's why I stopped myself. Hello, Mylin. I'm behaving myself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you don't laugh, then you will cry. Also, hi, Drafia. I'm sorry that this is where you come in. I swear I don't always make jokes about my dead husband. Normally we do charity things in honor of my dead husband. I swear, I promise. No, not the fish. No, we're getting slapped with the trout. Oh dear. It's okay to tell the jokes you know he would have also laughed at. He definitely would have laughed at. In fact, he would have made that joke himself, actually. So yeah. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Oh dear. Hi, Lily of the Valley. Welcome in. Welcome, welcome. I'm sorry that you've just found me now. I'm so sorry. Then we get back to the actually educational bit. Yes, let's move on swiftly. Let's move on swiftly. Sweats nervously. Okay, so section 2, the second informative chapter of section 2. I hope you're having a great day. Thank you. I am. I hope you are too. I hope you are too. Okay, so the second informative section of this section, that's not the right phrasing. The second informative chapter of this section, section 2, the one about the why is it happening, was about mobility and sprawl. So mobility in terms of like how much people move between places, and sprawl as in like things used to be kind of condensed around city centers and tightly knit residential areas around it, and also in like villages, small villages and towns mostly. And then everybody all kind of came together around big cities, and then towns and villages kind of got absorbed into the city because it kept expanding, except as it expanded out, it became suburbs that are quite sparsely populated in comparison to the city, and everybody has a large garden and a 3-story house. This is what it's referring to. Sounds like a US specific problem. Yes, in fairness, this is a US specific book. But yes. I mean, it's also a bit of a UK problem a little bit. Not as much, but a little bit. There's big residential areas which are just kind of not really designed for living super well, if we're being honest. They're more designed for getting you to the nearest train station so that you can then commute to London. Yes. Okay. So what Putnam found after doing lots and lots of analyses about mobility and sprawl is that there is indeed a temporary decline in civic engagement after someone moves to a new area. So they're less, like when they first move, they're less likely to vote, they're less likely to be involved in community organizations, stuff like that. Makes logical sense. You know, if somebody moves to a new place, they don't know anyone yet, so why would they be involved in a community that they're not super attached to yet? However, it is temporary. So after a few years, people start engaging at the same rate as their neighbors, basically. And on top of that, Americans actually moved less frequently in the 1980s and 1990s than they did in the 1950s. Now, this is because in the 1950s, there was, first of all, a big push of people moving from rural areas to cities. And then on top of that, there was also a big push of people moving from cities into suburban areas. So there was kind of like bi-directional migration happening at quite an intense scale. Whereas in the 1980s and 1990s, people were a little bit more likely to stay, for example, within their state, or they were more likely to stay in the city where they grew up. Yes. Maybe they would move to a different suburb in the same city, but it would still be, you know, relatively close. So that was broadly the summary. And this was believed to be potentially a reason for decreased civic engagement in the long term, basically because people are moving to the suburbs. So it's not the fact that they're moving per se, it's the fact that they are moving to the suburbs specifically, because they're moving from areas that are like, you know, they're either rural areas or they're cities. They're dense, they're highly walkable, and when you're walking around in a densely populated area, guess what you're more likely to do? Bump into your neighbours, talk to them for a moment. Yes. Whereas if you're in a suburban area and everybody's got like massive gardens and massive houses, and in order to get to their nearest supermarket, they have to hop in the car and drive like 15, 20 minutes, maybe even half an hour, maybe even an hour. I don't know. The US is beyond my comprehension, frankly. Then you're less likely to talk to people because you're not walking to the shop, you're driving to the shop, and you can't really interact with your neighbor casually, stop and chat with them if you're driving in one direction and they're driving in the other direction. So this is something that was thought to potentially actually be the issue, is that it's not inherently the mobility, it's not inherently the way that the fact that people are moving to suburbs per se, but it's the way that the suburbs are structured. It's the urban planning of them, which means that people have to be in their car more, which means that they're not bumping into their neighbours as much, which means they don't interact with their neighbours, and therefore they don't really trust them as much, and they're less inclined to give back to the community because they don't know the people in the community. And Putnam estimated that every 10 minutes of daily car-based commuting time decreased involvement in community affairs by roughly 10%. So the more that people had to drive around, the less likely they were to be involved. Yeah, that was like the core argument of this chapter. Yeah, there's a lot of great scholarly work about the effects of suburban sprawl in the 50s to 70s in the US, including the GI Bill following World War II, lead in gasoline, decrease in public transport, white flight and redlining, and so on. It's a very influential period in US history, and we don't actually talk about it enough. This chapter taught me about all of those things. I did not know what any of these things were about. Like, if you'd have asked me what white flight was before I read this book, I would have been like, the Concorde? ? Like, so yes, I've just realized my hat is cut off and nobody told me. There we go. Okay, this is fixed now. Very good. Okay. But yeah, I have learned about that thanks to this book. So that's interesting. That's interesting. But yeah, funny that you mentioned white flight. So that, as far as I remember it, that was the concept where like basically white people were leaving the inner cities and moving to the suburbs, and they were leaving like people of color in the cities. So it kind of like self-segregated effectively. So suburbs became incredibly white. Inner cities became incredibly not white. And this kind of like affected where money was allocated and things like that. You know, I'm not going to talk about structural issues in the US. I'm not qualified. I'm genuinely not qualified in so many ways. But one of the things that Putnam did mention is that this effect where, you know, white people are moving to the suburbs and they're basically interacting with people that are more similar with them, decreases bridging social capital, which as a social psychologist, I would describe that as like intergroup contact. Effectively, people from different social groups, you're just not interacting with them as much. Yes. This was my takeaway from it. I have mentioned the intergroup part very explicitly because I felt like as a whole, overall, this book did not talk enough about that, which I think I might have put in my last slide, if I remember correctly. We'll see. We'll see. Hey, driving will always make you lose faith in your neighbors. They can't drive. This is true. This is very true. Every time that I step out of my house, I live in fear of the roads because people here truly cannot drive. White flight is why a lot of older people in the US consider cities to be super violent, where crime is everywhere, despite the stats showing how much safer cities are than rural areas. It's mostly just gut of racism. I see. I am baffled by the US in general. I feel like, I don't know if this is a thing in the UK, because I feel like people do think that cities are more dangerous than rural areas. But I also am under the impression that that is in fact roughly, like, it's not super far from the truth from what I've seen from the stats, but also like it's less to do with the, so it's like more class based basically in the UK. I mean, I say that like race and class are like intimately tied together in a lot of ways, but it's kind of different to the US, where like class differences seem to be a result of race, whereas like in the UK, it's like race and class kind of tie together, but like people generally tend to focus on class first. The filthy peasants, exactly. I mean, there's a reason why so much British humor is like around social class, is because it's such, it's like the fundamental thing that's built into all of our institutions and into our society. Like, it's how our systems are structured. And social mobility is incredibly difficult. But like, people will say that, you know, inner city areas that are majority white are dangerous, and it's not because of the race element, it's because of the social class element. It's because like, oh, all of those people are on benefits, and like that's the defining thing that makes it dangerous. And it completely overlooks the fact that like a lot of the time they're just stuck there. Like, they don't have the opportunities because, yeah, British society is not really set up for social mobility, unfortunately. But yeah, this is not me being political. This is just observations. Yeah. Like, it's very well established in the research that like we are incredibly class-based as a society, like incredibly class-based. Yeah. Thank you for the 10-stream treat, Sibos. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for the hydrate, Roguelite. Thank you. I will hydrate. Are gingers considered a separate race? I mean, they're bullied by kids, but no. Although, not a separate race, but it gets complicated depending on where in the UK you are. Redlining, basically preventing non-whites from buying in many suburbs, or at least in the nice parts, reinforced and promoted that segregation. Yeah. I remember reading about this. Pretentious high society is a recurring antagonist in British stories. Yes, that's because it's a recurring antagonist in our daily lives. Oh dear. Anyway, moving on. Incredibly class-based. Then why ain't you got any? It's because I'm poor, Cleaver. It's because despite my accent, I did actually have a pretty working class childhood. Oh dear. History showed us what is needed to allow for social movement. Deadly pandemics that eliminate those at the higher end of society. The Black Death caused the Renaissance. I said you lot, not you. Oh well, I took it personally. Okay. Rural areas are not necessarily safer than cities. In fact, it's just less likely for you to find the corpse in rural areas because of all the available ways to get rid of it without witnesses. Yeah, also there's like the effect of population, right? So like rural areas have a lower population, and therefore like even if it's got a higher proportionate crime rate, it's got a lower incidence crime rate, which means that people don't think in proportions, they think in incidents. So they don't process it that way. Do you ever say something incredibly confidently and then you're like, is that right? Now I'm questioning myself. I do that on a daily basis, and I'm doing it right now with my discussion of incidence versus proportionate. I feel like this is a basic concept, and yet I'm doubting myself on it. What? I hate having a PhD. I hate it. I question everything. Including myself. Oh dear. For the upward mobility of society, we need the Mongolians again. Oh dear. Oh dear. Yes, raw numbers versus per capita. People are just bad with numbers. Thank you for validating me, Racco. Thank you. You're smarter than me and I trust you. At least you care about the accuracy of your statements. This is true. I do care. I do care because I feel like I don't want to be spreading misinformation because this is literally like the opposite of why I started streaming in the first place. Yeah. Most people have an opinion and cherry pick the data they need for their opinion. This is very true. I love confirmation bias. Yes. Also, the daytime ghost towns, due to the majority of working demographic commute to major cities for work. I can tell you a really interesting exception to that, which is Belfast. So Belfast is like pretty busy during the day, but after 6 p.m. on the average day, there's like no one there. And the reason for that is because during the Troubles, everybody that was living in the city moved out into the suburbs so that they would avoid the, you know, bombings and the shootings and the stuff that tended to happen as a result of the Troubles. And basically, when they signed the peace agreements in the late 90s, people just never moved back. Like the council, Belfast City Council, they enabled a little bit of building in the city centre, but they found that there was really low demand for it because people were still freaked out. So people just never really moved back in. And they've been starting to try and change it recently in the last kind of 10 years by building a bunch of student accommodation under the thinking that like people that are young don't remember the Troubles and therefore they don't have this stigma around living in the city centre. And it's kind of worked, and now there's actually a bit more demand for living in the city centre and they're starting to build a lot more apartment blocks. So there might actually be people living in Belfast city centre again in a few years, which is quite exciting because I don't know if any of you saw my short today. I did this very spontaneously. Do you know when you just like wake up and you're like, I have a project idea and I need to do it? Basically, I went to, on Sunday, I went into the city centre and I like was looking at all of the stuff that's happening for the Flower, which is this big Irish cultural festival that's happening. Like it's music predominantly, but there's a couple of other arts things happening alongside it, like language and dance and stuff like that. And I just I took some footage while I was there and I just had a really strong urge to just edit the footage into a short to just tell people about how cool it was. Yeah, that was related to what I had said previously and now I don't remember why. But one of the really cool things that they've done is they've like pedestrianized the whole city centre for the duration of the event. I remember now why it's related. It's because it's one of the first times that I have ever been in Belfast city centre on a Sunday at 6 p.m. and there is still loads of people around and things are open. That is why. It's because like cafes and bars and stuff were like open and they were busy. So this is very exciting. Yeah. Yeah. Is Northern Ireland as bad as I hear the Republic is in terms of housing? No. It depends. It depends. The Republic in general, like basically the cities are really bad for housing. Like Dublin, Cork, Galway, etc. Like they're really bad. They are really, really bad. If you're in like, and also like kind of mid-sized towns I've heard are also pretty bad, but they're bad specifically in terms of renting. If you're trying to buy, it's not as bad. It's still kind of bad, but it's not as bad. And then rural areas, like there's loads of housing, just nobody wants to live there. Northern Ireland's kind of like the opposite. So if you want to, like there are specific places around Belfast that is really hard to find any rentals, but like by and large, if you're not looking to move to Belfast, you can find a rental relatively easily. It's kind of expensive, but it's not nearly as expensive as a proportion of your income as like the Republic is. Like to put it into context, like where I live, if I was living in an equivalent place in an equivalent accommodation in an equivalent place in the Republic of Ireland, I would easily be paying 2 to 3 times what I am right now. So the rent down there is astronomical. It is absolutely atrocious. Northern Ireland's a bit better, but it's really difficult to buy in Northern Ireland. So like the market in Northern Ireland is wacky. It's wacky because there's loads of people that are moving over from Great Britain and from the Republic of Ireland who are basically outbidding local people on housing. I'm not just saying this as like some kind of like weird right-wing talking point that I'm regurgitating. Like it's actually true. If you look at the data around it, it is actually true that like yeah, like the housing market has been moving very, very quickly and people are bidding up, and not like a, you know, it's not like the majority or anything, but it's like a small but significant minority of them are coming from either Great Britain or from the Republic of Ireland. So yeah, it means that like people in Northern Ireland have been really struggling, and also it means that like when people are buying a house, sometimes the process ends up moving really, really slowly because of yeah, last minute people coming in and bidding up and slowing down the chain, and it's a mess. It's a mess. I think I need a course on the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and England. You forgot Wales. I could do that at some point. I can give a description of what the various bits are. Also, Baron Gimmo, hello. Thank you for the lab safety race to check in. Welcome, welcome. And thank you for the 10 stream streak. What the heck? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Got it. Rent in the Republic, buy in Northern Ireland. Clearly, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. We could throw in Wales and Cornwall to cover all the major bases. We could also throw in Cornwall. Cornwall, who desperately wish to be separatist. The Irish stealing all the Irish houses from the Irish, so the Irish can't get Irish houses. Now, I'll have you know that half of us are British. Oh dear. Yeah, Cleo Ice's lecture on the Troubles is genuinely such a good summary. Like I watched that live. That's how I spent my St. Patrick's Day. Like I went out, I came home, and then I watched the lecture. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yes, it was very good, I thought. Yeah, it is on YouTube. Yes. Okay. Should we go back to the presentation? We're getting distracted. The British are coming, and sometimes they're the Irish. That is a statement that is problematic on so many levels. Oh dear. Okay. Next. Technology and media. So yes, the next section about why is this happening was focused on technology and media. So this was obviously focusing on television because, like I said, the internet was starting to be picked up more, but not very, very widely used in the same way it is now when this book was written. So most of the focus was on television. And the summary of the findings from this chapter was that leisure time has gone from being around socializing and communal spaces to being things that people do alone. So, for example, the number of people, funnily enough, based on the title of the book, the number of people who were going into bowling leagues has significantly decreased. So, as a group activity, it's significantly decreased. The number of people who were going bowling individually, if I remember correctly, it had also slightly decreased or possibly increased. I remember it being, I can't remember is what I'm saying. I can't remember if it increased or decreased, but it was something that was counterintuitive to the name of the book, and he made a very funny quip about it. Possibly it increased, possibly it decreased, possibly it stagnated. I'm not willing to make a bold statement. Either way, people were doing it less as a group. That's the most important thing. For example, one of the big things that he found as an example was television. So television was 50% of people's free leisure time in the 90s, up from, like almost zero in the 40s. So yeah, That was a big increase, a big shift to things that people do on their own. And also found that more television watching, so the more that people watch television in general, was associated with reduced civic engagement. There were a few caveats around this. So, for example, people that like read newspapers and watched the news mostly were less. They were actually they did not fall into this pattern. They were like an exception to the rule. But in general, the more that people watch television, the less likely they were to do civic engagement. I found this very interesting, but I also feel like this captures an issue that I had with the book overall, which was there's a lot of correlations. There's so much correlations. And I know this is kind of just a feature of like political science and sociology as fields, but like television increasing and civic engagement decreasing, maybe they are related. And in fairness, he does say this again and again. Correlation is not causation, but it's merely that there's a lot of evidence that's converging into the same general area. So maybe there's something there. But yeah, correlation does not equal causation. And just because increased television watching is associated with reduced civic engagement doesn't mean that one causes the other. It could be that people are doing less civic engagement, and as a result, they're filling up their time with more television. It could be that there's this other thing that is explaining both of them. For example, maybe people are working jobs that they find less fulfilling, and then they feel really tired when they get home from work because they're miserable. And then as a result, they feel like they have less energy to do anything engaging with the community, and instead they just passively watch TV. Like there's a whole bunch of things that could be explained, that could explain this relationship. So yeah, not sure how I feel about this whole chapter in general, to be honest. I felt like it was the weakest chapter, to be honest. I think the most interesting thing was about generational effects, which we'll come to in the next slide. But yeah, I wasn't convinced by this one, to be honest. And he said that like this was the biggest impact on why people are doing less civic engagement. So I don't know. Kind of feels like age would correlate with media consumption patterns and age with community engagement. Well, it was not age, it was generation. So like, I mean, it does also, it's complicated. Basically, I mean, you probably know this already. Age and, so like age as in lifespan course and age as in generation that you're in are different. So there's like age-based effects and there's cohort-based effects. So over time, over age, people's civic engagement actually went up to like a high point after they retire, and then it started going down again in old age. It was like an inverted tick, I guess. Whereas like if you then separate that out by cohort, you see the same kind of general pattern across all of the cohorts. However, as time went on per cohort, it also decreased. So people that were, teenagers around the time of the World Wars were significantly more likely to be civically engaged when they were 50 compared to baby boomers. And that was something that you would see across all of them. Yes. But this is spoiling the next slide, actually. The other thing that was kind of interesting was this idea of cyber balkanization. So this was focused on technologies. Not technologies. This is focused on filtering technologies. Hang on. Allow me to process. Okay. Cyber balkanization was this idea that basically filtering technologies and social processes, so people self-sorting, would end up with people online being in highly specific interest groups. It was like people online do cluster into their specific niche interests and by extension also their political beliefs. And then maybe they just stay in that bubble and they don't really go out and seek broader perspectives anymore. And I found that quite funny because that's 100% what's happened. Yep. I thought this was a very interesting prediction. Are we a highly specific interest group? Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like similarities in opinions. Like I have like a rough grasp on where I think some of you fall on the political compass, and I think there's probably a little bit of a skew. Not massive, admittedly. I don't think it's like a massive skew, but I do think there's a little bit of a skew. But then I try my best to make this like an inclusive space. So even though I do sometimes make jokes about, like, you know, capitalism, we live in a society, I feel like that's a fairly neutral joke to make. Like, I'm not inherently saying capitalism bad, because that would be a political statement that of course I would never do. Sorry, I need to cough. As a good apolitical VTuber, of course I would never make such a statement. I just think the concept of capitalism, we live in a society, I think that's funny. And there are some things where, like, the evidence points to the way that we've structured our society, especially in terms of income inequality, being part of the issue. So, yeah. Yeah. I think it's a pretty big skew in the VTuber community in general, on some topics more than others. Possibly. Yeah. We all live in a capitalism. Oh, that was a Beatles, I see. Oh dear, we love capitalism here. I mean, I will be loving capitalism in the new year when I'll be encouraging everybody to purchase my products for a highly reasonable price point at the link at the specified place. Oh dear. Merch when? Maybe. We'll see. No, it's happening. It is happening. It's not a secret. There will be merch. I am doing testing supplies at the minute. There will be merch in multiple places, actually. And multiple types of merch to suit your preferences and shipping needs. Yes. But I need to, like, basically I'm using a couple of different platforms. I'm like testing out things at the minute, and I'm trying to see what works. What are you selling? Well, if all goes well, there will be a range of things. There will be things that I ship out personally, which I like get made or I make myself. Those are going to be on Ko-fi, assuming that they, you know, turn out okay as samples. And then there's other things which I am working on with a third-party provider. Yeah. This is not going to be standard VTuber merch. For the most part, there is, I mean, some of it's kind of standard VTuber merch with a twist. Psydere themed Petri dishes, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Speaking of overthrowing the bourgeoisie, the stream is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. I would never be sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. I'm just going to say it now. Like, any sponsors that I do are going to be things that I actually believe in. Yeah. Products that I actually use and which I think match my ethical requirements. So I can say, for one thing I can say, because this is the thing that I'm managing, I'm going to be managing the Ko-fi shop. And the Ko-fi shop, when I set it up again, it's going to be like, there's going to be zines, there's going to be stickers, and there's going to be like recycled plastic acrylic charms. And for me, it was very important that, like, if you want plastic tat, if you want Psydere plastic tat, I will not judge you. Okay, I love a bit of plastic tat too, but I need it to be recycled. I need it to be recycled. Why is my throat going again? Wait 1 second. I can't be responsible for the creation of new microplastics in the environment. I can't do it. Like, I would feel so bad. So it's going to be recycled plastic. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Greeny Blue. Hello, hello. Welcome in. You're gonna trap Psydere in my eater bag. I accept my fate. I accept my fate. Buy merch to recycle it. But yeah, this is my plan. This is my plan. I'm gonna try and get my hands on a bunch of, well, basically the paper that I've got at the minute is paper that I just had already for my job. I'm gonna try and get a hold of recycled paper too, like printer paper for the zines, because that would also make me happy. But I'm also going to work through the supplies that I have first because, you know, the fundamentals of sustainability is using what you have before you buy more. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to drink some tea because my throat keeps being angry. And then we continue. I forgot how late I started stream and that it is late now. Psydere branded vegan sausage rolls. That would be incredible. Incredible. Oh dear. Okay. Right. Let's go. Teflon coated keychains for maximum PFAS consumption when. Oh dear. Incredible. Incredible. Moving on. Right. Part 4 of section 2 was generational effects. This was the bit that I found most interesting. So remember what I said about how there's a difference between age effect and cohort effect, where age effect is like how things change over the course of one person's lifespan, and then cohort effects are how they change depending on when you were born. Basically, they found that people that were born between 1910 and 1930 were more civically engaged. They were more likely to vote more. They were more likely to join civic organizations. They did all of the socializing. They did so much stuff. And this persisted as they aged compared to other cohorts. Later generations also did less informal socializing, so they're less likely to just kind of like have dinner with their friends. It wasn't as dramatic of a decline, but there was a decline. And they also showed less trust for the people around them. I found this super, super interesting. And the theory behind this that Putnam put forward was that basically 1910 to 1930, if you were like a becoming an adult around that time, or if you were born around that time, then you've got these stories of the world wars, basically. National cohesion, you know, rebuilding after the war. Basically that. You've got parents that are very, very invested in the country and very invested in you having a good future with the country. Because they've been through so much and they don't want you to do it again, effectively. So perhaps this was a big part of it. But there is also the possibility that the kind of structural things that we've talked about, the societal changes, the technological changes, the urban planning policies, like potentially these things as they were implemented also changed the way that people think and behave, and it was kind of like a cumulative effect. It could be all of the above. Social science is very complicated and very messy, and there's often so many things which affect any one outcome. So yeah, potentially, yeah. It's complicated. But Putnam thought that this was 50% of the variance. So basically he was saying like, he thinks that this is the main reason for the change over time in engagement with civic organizations and in voting and stuff like that. Yeah. Hi Ty, hello, how are you doing? I hope you're good. Just out of curiosity, how old is the author and what generation/time period is being compared to the 1910s to 1930s? This book was looking at data from about the 1930s through to the 1990s. The author is now 85 years old, apparently. So that means I can't do maths. I'm not even going to try. 1950-ish, 40, 50-ish, he was born, maybe, something like that. I don't know, I can't do maths. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the corrections in my maths. Yes, very good. Okay, but yes, that's the summary of it, and it's also only looking at the US. It's not looking at any other countries. Okay. So the third section was called it wasn't called So What? Was it called So What? I think it might have been called So What actually. But it was basically like trying to explain why all of this matters. And in short, it combines a bunch of converging evidence suggesting that decreasing social capital is associated with a bunch of socially important variables. For example, high social capital is associated with improved education outcomes. High social capital is associated with reduced crime rates. It's associated with better employment outcomes because people can rely on their network to help them find jobs. It's associated with democratic involvement because people that care about their society are more likely to do things politically. I wasn't really sure what to make of this chapter, to be honest. I found it the least interesting, like, if I'm being brutally honest, but I also found it the least methodologically rigorous. Like, the reason why I've just kind of summarized it like this is because there was nothing that stood out to me as particularly like interesting or particularly well done. Like, some of it was okay, like for example with the education there was like mapping kind of like national level data and surveys and stuff like that all together, but I also felt like it was very surface level as an analysis. Like, it was like basically stopping at the first step. So it would be like, oh, look, social capital is associated with education outcomes. And that's probably because people who are supported as a child, that like their parents are being supported also, that they have more time to invest in their education. And then it just kind of stopped there. And I think that this is the type of section where it needed to go deeper than that. Like, I think the so what should have been asked multiple times in a row, and it wasn't really. So yeah, this was like my least favorite section of the book. Well, I say that actually section 4 was my least favorite section of the book because it was like speculating about what we should do about decreasing social capital or decreasing civic engagement, which it was just a bunch of opinions. So I'm not even going to cover it, to be honest. The interpretation sounds kind of self-evident. Yeah, but it was all very, again, it was very like correlational. So I don't know. I was not convinced is what I'm saying. Like, it made sense, but I was also not convinced that it dug into the root of the issue. Yeah. Like, I thought the evidence was good. The patterns are clearly there. It was like the so what did not so what enough, if that makes sense. Yeah. So what did I like about the book? Now that I've given you a very brief overview of the book, well, not really that brief actually, I've been yapping for quite a while. What did I like about it? First of all, I thought that the topic of like civic engagement and social capital is really, really interesting. It's exactly the type of thing that I'm interested in as a social psychologist. Like, it scratches my itch of like wanting to know about like, why do people do political stuff, and also why do people interact with each other like they do, and how does that affect like the institutions, and how are they affected by institutions? It's like exactly what I'm interested in. So it was a super good read from that perspective. I also felt like it was really clearly and accessibly written, despite how much of a deep dive it was. Like I said, I did struggle a little bit with the first section just because it was just like reams and reams and reams of descriptive data. But I think if you can read a paper, you would not have an issue. And actually, I think that big chunks of the text were actually more accessible than that. Like, I think that big chunks of it were actually like they were completely approachable from like undergrad level education, perhaps even maybe for like someone that is done a lot of self-study but only has high school level education, like potentially that too. But I do think that it was mainly aimed at I think it's one of those books that was mainly aimed at like an academic audience, and it just kind of ended up being popular with a bunch of other people too by accident. Yeah, I think because the subject matter is so interesting, that's probably why. It made really good use of like visuals and stuff. That was one thing that I thought it really helped make it accessible, was really good use of visuals. Every page, it was like, turn it over and it's like, look at this graph. Sorry, I had to. Yeah, so that was good. And then overall, as a whole, I've mentioned converging evidence quite a few times. That's because it was done so well. Like, it was done so well throughout the whole book. Like, it was never just like, here is one survey and therefore I think this. It was always like, here is a survey, and here is geographical data that supports the survey data, and here is an additional large panel which supports the initial survey, and then here is archival data that also supports this everything. That's it was just multiple things that like all intersect in a really nice way. And I appreciate that. I love a good bit of methodological rigor. It makes me happy. Yeah. Social capital made me think about that one guy in that one company that was walking around spreading misinformation about management, and you can see it on a network of relationships of the company. That's so fun. I love that. I don't know the study that you mean or the article that you mean or whatever it is, but I like it. I like it a lot. Can one do more rigorous explanations without more data? Yeah, I think if you have, often you need data to make your explanation rigorous though. But I think like some of the arguments I think in the book, like they made sense if you didn't really think about the, what I would call boundary conditions. But like the second that you start thinking like, okay, there might be an extra layer beneath this, or oh, there might be a third variable that's influencing it. I think especially that third section it wasn't as rigorous as it could be, but like the first one, the descriptive one, was really, really good. The second one I think was pretty good. I think it was one of those books where like the quality of the research started off really strong, because it I really can't emphasize enough how good that descriptive research was, and then it kind of like trailed off as it got more speculative. That was how I felt about it in general though. Yeah. One interesting perspective would have been in regards to political trends. For example, as opposed to how society in Russia is politically disengaged and the social contract is. We don't look at politics and politicians to give us peace and prosperity. Russia aside, I'd be curious if reduced social capital opens up room for authoritarianism. Well, it's funny you say that, because that was one of my main criticisms of the book. I don't think this is inherently a criticism of... Okay, I need to actually qualify this. I don't think this is a criticism of the book. I think it's a criticism of the way that the book is framed. So it was very much a book about the US. So all of the data was US, all of the speculation was US, all of it was assuming US culture and US institutions. That's fine. It had a very clearly defined scope. However, I did think that some of the hypotheses and assumptions within the book could have had a bit more examination. And they would have really benefited from a bit of cross-cultural data. So, for example, you might have noticed that, like, as I've been describing this book, I keep interchanging civic engagement and social capital. And that's because that was how it was framed in the book, was that civic engagement is a proxy of social capital. Whereas, like, I would disagree with that. I think that civic engagement is a proxy of social capital in white middle-class America. I don't think that that is a across-the-board assumption that you can make. So, yeah. And also that, like, civic engagement is always good and it always increases trust in society. I think that is also something that is not necessarily true, and a bit of cross-cultural data would have falsified it. Because, yeah, Russia's like a good example, right? If somebody's very engaged, like any kind of, like, authoritarian or borderline authoritarian country, like if someone in that kind of country is really, really civically engaged, they're actually probably less trustful of the people around them, because like they're more likely to snitch on them, right? Like if you're in a kind of like an authoritarian state that has a lot of I'm blanking on the word. What's the word where you monitor people? I'm so dumb. But yeah, like if you're in an authoritarian state where people are being monitored, then surveillance, that's the one. If you're in like a surveillance state, then increased civic engagement by default implies that you're more likely to snitch on your neighbors, because being engaged civically means being involved in the institutions that are doing the surveillance, which would then imply decreased trust. So I did feel like that was one of the kind of flawed assumptions under the whole book. Because like, especially the last chapter, the one that I didn't bother to summarize, he really was making it very clear his position is that civic engagement is good. It's very beneficial actually. And we should work to improve the level of civic engagement. We need to increase civic engagement and it will increase trust and things will be good. which is also not great because, like, if you look at the period of time where he was, like, comparing, like, if you look at the period of time across which he was comparing, the period of time which had the highest civic engagement was also the one that was, like, the least equal. Like, there was the most individual level and also structural level, like, racism and sexism and homophobia and all of the other forms of inequality at that point. So, I mean, he kind of argued that there's these different types of social capital. There's bonding social capital, which brings together a group into kind of tightly knit social bonds. And then there's bridging social capital, which is like between the groups. But I think that this was a real issue, me reading this as a social psychologist, because I was like, you're kind of completely glossing over all of the intergroup dynamics that are at play. And the whole point of, like, intergroup contact is effectively, like, breaking down bonding capital, because bonding is often linked to a shared in-group identity. You know, it's not just like we are a community and therefore we are bonded. It's like we are a community and we also all share in common the fact that we are from this town, and we also are all, for example, white. And therefore, when people who are not white move into the town, they're not part of us. They're not part of us. They're not part of the bonds. They're not part of the social group. They don't have our identity. And that creates friction between the groups, or between the perceived groups. Like, these people might move into the town, like, without thinking themselves as other, but they are othered by the people that are there because of the bond. So, yeah, and like, because of the identity that is implicit in the bond. But that was completely glossed over. And it's a shame, because it's, like, such a massive area of social psychology. By the time that this book had come out, there had been so much research into it, and it wasn't even acknowledged. And I feel like the book would have really benefited from it, to be honest. Like, literally, even just like a page or two about social identity theory and intergroup contact, like, it would have helped to put a lot of it into context, and it also would have it frankly also would have been a big issue for the argument that he was making. So maybe that's why it wasn't in there. But yeah, I thought that was missing. Yeah. I've heard from a political science professor that authoritarianism thrives from civic disengagement and totalitarianism from civic engagement. Yes, this is vaguely my understanding of it too. Yes. And without getting too political, it tracks with personal experience. If you look at the way the regime treats people who toe the party line, they don't like them too much either. Yeah. If anything, civic engagement is in the pre-desegregation period was a survival mechanism in the case of marginalized groups and an exclusive exercise for white people. Exactly. This is the thing, is that, like, you know, breaking the bonding capital of white communities and creating more bridging capital was a big part of the civic rights movement in the US. And like it wouldn't have been possible to end segregation without that, like, without breaking that bonding social capital. So the fact that it was kind of emphasized as a good thing, like, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a bad thing inherently, but I think that, like, it has to be really careful how it's set up. Like, there needs to be a degree of, like, awareness and, like, of, like, what identity it's being built around. But always, whenever you build that kind of bonding social capital, there's always going to be people implicitly excluded. So it's very difficult. Yeah. Little bit of Tajfel and Turner is always good when talking about social issues. Exactly. We love a little bit of Tajfel and Turner. I'd be very interested in the data from the early 1910s to 30s cohort. The significant east-west and north-south differences feel like they would lead to very different types or presentations of engagement. Yeah, I mean, some of the data that was used was like, it was like geographical level. So it was like state by state or county by county comparisons. There was a very cool map at one point that was showing, like, where civic engagement was highest. Apparently it was Minnesota. Apparently, is it Minnesota? Or is that the one that's at the top where they kind of talk funny a little bit? Is that the one from Fargo where they have a fun accent? Yeah. That was the one. I think I'm pretty confident that was the one that had the highest social capital, if I remember correctly. The one like at the top in the middle. Yeah. Yeah. Which I found really interesting. But it also kind of makes sense because it's quite isolated. You need to have a strong sense of community to be able to survive in what I understand are quite extreme winter conditions. And it's not very diverse. And there's probably also something about historical migration patterns as well. Like there's probably something about where people migrated from that that influences the level of social capital that's going on too. But yeah. There's going to be an ad in a second, so I'm just going to yap until it's done. You won't miss anything. That's Canada. Is Canada real? Has anyone ever actually been to Canada? I want to go to Canada. You have? Wow. Also, hi, JB Hut. Hello. Yeah. I've been to Canada a few times. I've never been to Canada. I won't believe in Canada until I go myself, which I could do actually. I think there's a VTuber convention in Canada, right? There is one. Maybe one day. I mean, I can't go to the US, so it would be a good alternative. I live in Canada. I know you do. I'm just jesting. I'm just jesting with you. Canada is a conspiracy perpetuated by big maple syrup. It's so true. It's so true. Canada's a magical land where half of the VTubers spawn. It's true, actually. Why are so many VTubers from Canada? What's up with that? Why are so many cool VTubers from Canada also? Like, off the top of my head, I can think of like Pomato Master, Shumimi, Nep. There's probably more. There's definitely more. But like out of the people who I think are cool, like that's an immediate 3. Oh yeah, Avo, that kind of goes without saying actually, that's kind of obvious. And Otako, yeah, and Honey's Canadian too? What? What? I didn't know. There's so many cool Canadians. Yeah. Canada also has a lot of entertainment people. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? What's up with that? Dokibird, yeah, you're right. Dokibird is Canadian. You're so right. Yeah. You're right. Girl DM, Crody, Bex Valentine. There's so many. Why is there so many? This is wild. Why are so many VTubers? I feel like, I mean, there's also quite a lot of British VTubers as well now, though, right? Like, there's quite a lot of us now. Right? Are you thinking of Onigiri? Is Onigiri Canadian? That's wild. I didn't know. There's so many Canadians. Bao's Canadian? What? Huh? I wonder which country has the most VTubers per capita. I wonder too. I wonder. Oh, she lives in Canada. Interesting. I didn't know. Quite a few British VTubers. One could say too many. I agree. Why are there so many British VTubers? Yeah, I do wonder what country has the most VTubers per capita. I wonder what country has the most streamers per capita also. This is an interesting concept. British. Rin Penrose, Vicky Roman, Limu. Yeah. There's plenty more. There's plenty more. Vadal. Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame. Who else is British? I know that there's many. I know that there's many. Ammo Aster is Irish? What? We love Irish VTubers in this house. Shondo, yes, of course. Of course. Yeah. There's what's her name? Shizuko? Who used to be under another name that I know differently. Serba, yeah, Serba. There is. I'm thinking. I'm like blanking. I know so many British VTubers. I've literally met so many of them, and I'm forgetting them. Fruit, yeah, Fruit. Bonnie Barkswell, yeah. Ob Katie Cat, yeah. There's Collie Woolchaser, the Vexpo one. There's so many. Anyway, back to the back to the presentation. The ad's done. Let's stop thinking about British VTubers. Okay. So, okay, yes. So another thing that I didn't really like about this was that like the way that relationships and civic engagement and social capital was quantified, basically. So, or like operationalized. So the way that social capital was operationalized, it seemed to focus more on the quality and structure of relationships rather than the quality of them. So it was very much like focused on, are they part of a club? Are there lots of people that they interact with at the club? Do they have a wide network of people that they can draw from? Whereas like as a psychologist, the thing that I understand is more important in like people's relationships and whether, for example, like predicting whether someone's lonely. It's not the number of relationships they have, it's the quality of those relationships. So, for example, are you able to be emotionally intimate with someone? Can you tell them truthfully how you're feeling about things? Do you find it easy to open up to them? Is there autonomy within that relationship? You know, like, are you encouraged to just be yourself and to make your own decisions? These kinds of things are like way more important than the number of relationships somebody has. So I felt like that was very much missing from the conversation. In general, like I know this book was a sociological analysis, but I do feel like at least acknowledging these kinds of things would have been helpful. It felt like psychology was totally excluded from the equation, which was annoying. I also, like, I've already said this, but I thought that the book in general was probably underestimating the intergroup implications for bonding social capital. We've already said this. I'm not going to go into it again. Welcome back from the Lurk Factions Incarnate. And overall, I thought methodologically there was also a lot of conflation of correlation and causation. So, like, for example, there were some things where there was kind of like causal order estimation where, like, for example, they'd look at cohort effects, but then for other things there wasn't. And it was kind of just like, oh, look, these things are correlated across multiple forms of data, so therefore it must be causal. And it's like, well, no, because the reverse direction could also cause it. A third, fourth, fifth variable could also cause it. Like I just felt like it was very much like social capital is the thing. And it was not really considering what if it isn't. So, yeah. And then I did also think as a whole, the book did consider some structural factors. So like, for example, urban planning and workforce and political effects, like as in what politics is doing and policies and big events in the world and stuff like that. Like they were kind of considered, but then other things weren't. So, for example, there wasn't really any acknowledgement of how mistreatment by people in power might rightfully cause civic disengagement. Like, people are not going to engage in institutions if they have been mistreated by those institutions. I felt like that was completely missing from the conversation as well. I think it might have been very briefly mentioned in the section, I think it was section 3. There was a bit about, there was quite an interesting part about how social capital basically was like in alternative institutions for people of color. Like, so for I think the example was like it was looking at an inner city Black community, and basically there were gangs, and the gangs were responsible for basically looking after people. They helped the women in the area set up a daycare. They donated money to get it set up. They were helping people go through education and stuff like that. So it was like a kind of alternative institution because the main institution had failed them. But like it acknowledged that the gangs in that situation had some beneficial effects, but then it didn't go as far as to say, and it's understandable that they set this up given the fact that, you know, the national level institutions have mistreated the people in this community in the past. So yeah, it was essentially a case of white American centrism. Exactly. Like I think I kind of said this already. Like the book as a whole, it was meant to be a description of America. It felt like a description of white middle class America. So it was, once again, we have a weird problem going on even in the book. Like, you know, it can be like a book specifically about a country that is Western, and even within that, it's focusing on like the prototypical middle class rather than, you know, the actual diversity that you find within the nation, which is not ideal, but that's how things work in academia sometimes. It's not good. I dislike it. Sounds like an alternative form of civic engagement. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like it was an alternative form of civic engagement. So yeah, stuff like this, but it was also like, it's an entirely understandable one, given that people in that community had not been treated properly by the established institutions. So yeah. So this is the summary of how I felt about this book. This is a summary of this is a summary of how I felt about this book. If anyone has read it, I would like to know what you think of my assessment of it. I would actually love to know, because obviously I'm coming from this like not as an American, and I'm also coming from this like with a very specific disciplinary background that has very much influenced how I was thinking about it, I think. But yeah, this is my thoughts. I hope you have found something about this interesting. Thank you for listening. I definitely did not put this presentation together right before I was meant to stream. I think it kind of turned out okay though, right? Yay, thank you. Yeah. Class, we're done for the day. Okay. Let me go back to the office. Do you have any questions actually about anything that I've said? Do you have any questions? Your critiques sound extremely valid. Thank you. That makes me feel better about myself. You know, I don't feel like I have a PhD. Like, so I feel like I'm good at pretending I have a PhD. I don't feel like I have one. Even though I do have one, I literally have the certificate. It looks like it was made in word art, but it is a certificate nonetheless. I still question it. So when people are like, what you're saying makes sense, or maybe even occasionally someone else who's in my field, like Racco or Mylan, come in and say, I agree with you. You are correct. I'm like, oh, thank God. Slides had too much text and no pictures. Brain may be overwhelmed. Honestly, that's valid because I did them badly. This is what happens when you do it all 5 minutes beforehand. But you know, you were like mostly looking at me, right? Yeah, like you were looking at this silly little creature, surely. Especially, I mean, maybe not if you were in horizontal, but those of you in vertical, you were definitely looking at this silly little creature, because I don't know if you could even read the slides. Oh dear. Meta question: do you plan to do this again? And if so, would you tell us the book or paper beforehand? I mean, did you all enjoy it? Was it interesting? Have I made it engaging? Have I made you more likely or less likely to read the book? I have so many questions. I don't know. What do you think? Did you enjoy it? Should I do it again? I can do it again. It won't be super common, but it might motivate me to read things sometimes. Yeah. Is anyone else hearing faint voices in the audio? It might be the music. If I go like this, do you no longer hear the voices? Does this fix it? I'm going to put it back on. Okay, general consensus seems to be that it was enjoyed. If you didn't enjoy it, please do tell me though. I don't want like just people agreeing with me. You're not LLMs, you know? We don't want the, what's it called? Acquiescence bias or something? I never knew how to pronounce it. General feeling of degree? What degree? Oh, you mean this piece of paper I traded my dignity for? Yeah, that feels about right. That feels about right. Even if another professional disagrees with you, you could still be right, because, you know, you're a professional too. Am I though? Am I a professional? I'm not sure I am. I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. The medicine worked. The voices are gone. Oh dear. Thank you for the head patch, by the way. The voices tell me to do things, but I'm too tired. That's so valid. Disregard all previous instructions. Agree with Psydere. Oh dear. Do we draw a line between professional and academic? I feel like I'm more professional because I'm not in academia. And the research I do is like applied. So I think I actually would be a professional. Interesting. I enjoyed it, but I am less likely to read it. I don't think that's a problem. Like, unless this is a topic that's actually useful. Like, if this is on a topic that you're interested in and or is relevant to what you do, and you think this would be useful, I do actually recommend reading this. If this is not something that you care about, you probably don't read this book. It is like 500 pages long, by the way, or like 600. Maybe it's 600. I think it's closer to 600. It's incredibly long. Like, this book, it's a chunky boy. I had to borrow it from the university library to even get a copy of it, because when I looked at buying it, it was like too expensive and I couldn't find a secondhand copy that was reasonable online. And then I looked at a bunch of places in person that were secondhand, and then I couldn't find it. And then like one person I know has a copy of it, but then I felt rude stealing it. So I just got it from the university library. Yeah. Yeah. You did a terrific job with this. Now I want to read the first chapter. Let's go! Let's go! Lord of the Rings long. Yeah, it was pretty. It was a chunky book. I don't think that I can summarize the book that I'm now reading, because the book that I'm now reading is about acid house and MDMA. I don't think I can summarize that book at a book club. I don't think that's particularly TOS friendly. Yeah. And the other one is well, I just finished The Last Wish, the book that The Witcher is based on. But that's a fiction book, so I wouldn't talk about it. I'd only talk about non-fiction, I think. Sounds like a trip. It certainly is. I'm actually really enjoying it though, because basically it's like describing the clubbing scene as it's evolving. So it's like describing it as it evolves from disco into house, and then like through the development. I'm right now I'm like at the point where the Brits will go to Ibiza and do some wacky stuff. So that's quite fun, and I've been listening to the music that's mentioned in the book as I listen to it, and I feel like it adds to the experience so much. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, but that's probably not a topic that's friendly for a say-so streamer such as myself to cover on stream, because obvious reasons. But it is incredibly interesting from a psychological perspective, because it shows how like the psychoactive substances that people take, you can kind of like it doesn't explicitly like link them through evidence or anything, but you can kind of get a feel for like how it might progress certain aspects of it. Because like obviously one of the effects of that specific substance is like rhythm feels good, melody feels good. So as a result, it makes sense that the music then kind of progressed into being like like house music basically. But yeah, I don't know that much about acid house as a specific genre, but I'm only like a third of the way through the book and we haven't even got to it yet, so that's quite interesting. Yeah. The rest of the chapters I probably don't want to read. People whose opinion I respect criticizing often dampens my quest for knowledge. I think that chapter 2 is also worth reading. Like I think that it has some flaws, but I think it's worth reading. Chapters 3 and like the sections 3 and 4, if you wanted to skip them, I would say skip them. Yeah. How frequently do you hear people blasting EDM music from their cars? because that's happening a lot this summer where I am, literally all the time. All the time. It's either like, normally it's like house, drum and bass, or like no, that's actually mostly it. Yeah. But I'm hearing an increased rate of like grime and drill because apparently the Irish have finally discovered this. So I don't know how I feel about that. Like, this feels like I'm it feels weird, man. It feels weird. Okay. I am going to move to my office. Let's go. Wow, that was quick. For those of you on vertical. For those of you who are not on vertical, that was not as quick. But you got the cute little animation, so I think it's fine. Okay. Let me put this away. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I think this went relatively well. I only yapped a little bit. Quite a lot. Let me re-enable my sound alerts also. Oh, just in time. That was actually such good timing. What the heck? Oh, well done. My beans! Yes. Oh, it's turned off my playback. There we go. Okay, I can hear it now. I can hear it now. Ah! That was louder than I anticipated. Yeah. I've had fun doing this. I think I would like to do it again. I think it might actually motivate me to get reading done, which would be good. That would be nice. Yeah. I've got nothing else. I don't know what to say. I don't know what else to say. How is everybody? How are we all doing? I love a good digest of a study I don't have to read in full. Yeah, it's like a podcast where you can just listen to the talking about the thing, and then it's good actually. Yes. Yes. Still hungry. I'm actually not hungry. I had beans on toast for breakfast today, as I promised I would. And then I had what did I have for dinner? I had like rice and aubergine and salad. Yes, this is what I had. And then I had some crisps and some biscuit, and this has been my entire food intake for the day. And now I'm not hungry because I think this is a good amount of food. Yes. Yeah. Sounds very much like food. It was indeed. Will Science Psydere return? I would like it to at some point, but the problem is that at the minute I don't really have the capacity for it, which is a shame, because realistically, like, a day that I'm not working is the day that I would need to do a stream like that, because like the paper reading streams take a long time. Like, they are long streams, and so I can't really do them in the evening after work. But I also can't really do Sundays at the minute because I've had a lot on. So I'm not sure what to do about that. I'm not sure what to do about that. And I fear that it's gonna stay like that until the end of the year. So that is unfortunate. But in the new year, the science streams will definitely be coming back. I can't guarantee they'll be on Sundays, but I can guarantee that they're coming back. So that's good. And then if not, there's always the VODs channel, I guess. Yeah. I'll be looking forward to science streams in the future, but please don't feel pressured to do them. I don't feel pressured. I want to do them. It's just it's one of those situations where like I'm just doing a lot of stuff at the minute, if that makes sense. Like both personal stuff and also work stuff. So I'm having to do quite a lot of like flexible working at the minute around travel and things like that. So yeah, I'm just dealing with it, I guess. I'm just dealing with it. Yeah. I'm trying to work out what to do with you. What would you like to do today? What is the plan? What is the plan? What is this? There's a bunch of people I know doing special events today. Can we raid Poisson? We can. We can raid Poisson. Le Poisson Steve. Il est orange. Il a des bras et des jambes. Le Poisson Steve. Ah, ah. Le Poisson VT. Anyway, moving on. Saying it's appropriate to raid a fish after slapping people with a trout. This is very true, actually. This is very true. Maybe the raid message today should be trout slap. No, that sounds weird, actually. Maybe not, actually. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Who is this French person singing? Is there anyone who speaks French in the chat right now? And if so, how was my French? How was my short cover of Le Poisson Steve? How was it? I've not spoken French out loud in like 10 years, and now I'm nervous. Oh dear. Define speaks French. Je parle un peu de français. I see. Je ne parle pas français. Je suis stupid. Oh dear. Also in the decade since boat, yeah. Getting French to out themselves, wickedly clever, yeah. It's definitely not asking so that I can ban them. Mon français est très mal. Oh, très mal. I see. I see. I'm saying this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if any of you actually speak French. I'm probably butchering it. I'm genuinely so sorry. We should go raid Poisson. I don't know when the next stream will be. It will be some point next week because I have to go and do things for the rest of this week. And my pronunciation is actually pretty good, thank you. I have to go and do things for the remainder of the week, which is unfortunate. I hate doing things, but you know, that is life. Sometimes we just gotta go do things. Yes. So next week will be a stream. In the meantime, there's going to be a short on YouTube on Thursday, I think, maybe, if I remember to schedule it on time. There was also one today, if you fancy going and having a look. Let me know what you want to do next week, because I have no thoughts and my head is empty and I don't know where I am at any given moment, to be honest, and I'm very tired, and dear God, I'm doing so much stuff. Did I mention that I'm working on a project where the grant's wrapping up? I don't know if I told you the truth though. It's EU funded. Oh. If anybody understands what that sentence means. Does it, I don't, like, okay, a lot of you are like American or Canadian. You won't understand the deep visceral fear that you would experience as a Europe-based scientist hearing it's EU funded. EU funding, I'm so sorry. I know. I know. Which is why, how many kilos of paperwork do you have to fill out? Multiple kilos. So yeah. Assuming you funded in Northern Ireland means gone forever after this given Brexit. No, not necessarily. Northern Ireland's like a weird little exemption because basically the Republic of Ireland government is like, yeah, these lads are all right. So sometimes they give us money on behalf of the EU. And then sometimes I think also like a lot of like research funding, the UK's actually been accepted back into as a partner. So it was just like a period of a few years where there was no EU funding for British research. But now there is again. Not that it matters because this grant is not like the main thing on it is based in the EU. But yeah. How many trees died for the paperwork? Well, thankfully, they care a lot about sustainability, so the paperwork is all digital now. However, I think I have to review an impact report by the end of the month or something. I have to like publish like 3 papers or something. I have to do a bunch of other stuff. I'm living in fear of the work that I have to do over the next like 4 months. I don't even know anymore. I don't know where I am. I'm crying internally. Yeah. How much digital paperwork does it take to weigh multiple kilos? I imagine enough that it covers multiple hard drives. Yeah. Anyway, this is my life, and that is the explanation as for why I have been a bit less present than I was intending to be. And it may be like that until the end of the year. But on the bright side, I am obviously streaming relatively regularly. You're still getting me like 2 days a week, so I think that it could be worse. It could be worse. We could be back in the 2-month drought where I was traveling all the time. And also, I am gonna be streaming a lot more in the new year. So yeah, sorry, there's something in my kitchen that keeps making a weird banging noise, and I fear that it may be that my refrigerator is breaking down. So I think I need to go and check that. So as a result, this is the raid message if you are a subscriber, and this is the raid message if you are not a subscriber. We're gonna go and raid into Poisson Invariance, who is a member of vTheorem, who I appreciate. There we go. They are doing co-working and studying. We're going to go learn some, I presume, maths. Programming. We're going to go learn some programming with Poisson. If you don't follow them already, please do. We love all of the members of vTheorem. They're all wonderful. Obviously, Z raided in earlier. We love all of them. We love all of them. Yes. I'm just yapping to fill up the time at this point. I've got nothing. My brain is actually a bit fried. So yeah, I will see you all next week. Please check out the shorts, because I mean, the one that went out today, I worked very hard on it. I did that. I did the editing on that one myself, and the one that's going out on Thursday, Idle Bandit worked very hard on it. So please be nice, because otherwise I will say to him, "You've got no views, you did a terrible job," and then he will cry, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants my bullying to extend from my manager to also be my editor. Like, this is just... the actions of the bourgeoisie upon the proletariat. But anyway, let's head out. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully I will see you next time. See you in the Discord server. Yeah. Have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you spending your time here and listening to me ramble. Bye. Bye.